discussion. We're talking again with a couple of people who are on the ground level who are helping combat some of the violence that we hear about in Chicago, trying to make a difference, trying to build those community bridges. Usually you'd hear that introduction to my co-host, Tio Hardiman. Tio, you've done the same, but now we're bringing on a couple other people to address those issues. What's up, Tio?
Well, we need all hands on deck anyway. That's what life is all about. Some kind of way we have to reduce gun violence in Chicago on a higher level. This year, unfortunately, we're looking at 750 plus homicides, 3,700 shootings, and 1,200 carjackings so far in Chicago year 2020. So year 2021, we need everybody to get on board. Let's just go to work. So I'm happy to have the guests that we have here today and kind of talk about walking with the warrior. I like the way it sounds.
Oh, for sure. It's empowering, right? You're talking about warrior, you're talking about someone who's on the ground level, who's actually fighting the fight that needs to be fought. Tio, I met you 20 years ago. You and I have been on and off again friends for about 20 years.
Yes, indeed.
This is an issue we talked about back then. It's an issue we continue to talk about now. I think some of the differences are there's a different group of actors with a different group of solutions, but something has to be tried, right? We got to go find what works and what doesn't work and really empower the new ideas that are out there to help make a difference.
But what I'm looking at right now, we need more creative ideas because I like cutting through the chase. That's why the name of our show is Against the Grain.
Sure.
And I'll just be straight up. I'm putting myself out there on the edge for a minute. The reality is that it's hard to stop a homicide because most killers don't talk. Just being straight up with you. It's hard. It's not like nobody's going on a loudspeaker saying I'm about to shoot somebody. So in order to get on the front end, it's important to have boots on the ground that can intercept whispers on the streets so you can probably prevent a shooting on the front end. You know, my violence interrupters this year, we've mediated around 60 conflicts that could have turned deadly, and we stopped it on the front end before any shots were fired because we brought the people together that had a conflict. But the only way we got lucky is because people we know called our phone and let us know that these guys were beefing with one another, and we had relationships with the guys, and we brought them together, and we sat them down in peace circles and healing circles. And you'll be surprised. A lot of these young guys really have a lot of emotions built up in them, and they don't really know how to deal with conflict. So they end up turning on each other thinking shooting somebody is the way out. But that's not the way out. That's the way to early graveyard or to the penitentiary. Nobody wins in that reality. So
it propagates the cycle. It doesn't help everyone. And there's got to be different ways. And like you said, it's all about getting that interaction, getting that communication. We invite all of our callers, again, as always, to call and talk with us. Join the conversation with Sean Easton with Walking with a Warrior and Sergeant Jermaine Harris. Dial up at 773-763-9278. 773-763-9278 to join this discussion. Sergeant Harris, you've been doing this a long time. What are some of the things that work? What are some of the things you've been doing? We have talked about this once in the past before. We met as we were at a football game being hosted in the parking lot of a police department where you had police officers and members of the community, no egos, no stereotypes, hot dogs. What's up? What was that about?
Yeah, so really it goes to the point of we're going to come up with solutions. We're going to work together. We're going to do all of these collaborative projects. It has to start with one important place. It's got to start with relationships. Teal, you talked about violence interrupters, right? The most important thing to make their job successful is they have relationships with people, right? So we got to start in those spaces. And so as we start to come up with plans and we start to come up with solutions, one of the core principles, core pillars of every one of those ideas starts with relationships. So how do we build these relationships with people? How do we establish trust? How do all those things happen? It's really in bringing it together and trying to find these common ideas and these common goals. That's where it starts.
Yeah, I like when you talk about relationships because from my experience, like when I used to direct Ceasefire, we had a relationship with 1,200 high-risk youth here in Chicago, and our staff spent 22,000 man-hours with the high-risk youth. And we kind of kept up, and we monitored all the progress that the young men and women made during that time period. That's why we know we were effective to a degree there. See, the main thing, nobody wants to just take all, I would never try to take all the credit for reducing anything. Because when things go bad, people are not talking as much. But if everything's going okay, everybody has something to say. The bottom line, if you can save one life, you're doing a good deed here in Chicago.
So in building these relationships, Sergeant, tell us how you came into contact with Sean and the work that he's getting off the ground. Again, Sean Easton, Walking with a Warrior. We're going to talk a little about what it is that you do, Sean, but tell us from a police perspective how you guys found that this was a partnership, a cooperative that you guys wanted to move forward with.
Yeah, it really started with just my role in community policing, being out, getting to know people who are doing outstanding work within the community. And so Sean was working on a project to develop a program in housing for women and to dealing with homelessness and shelters for women. And so we kind of sparked up a conversation. And as I shared with him that I'm a Marine and my veteran status, he started to talk about the concept of walking with the warrior, or something he had been wanting to start and put together. And so, in seeing that and really exploring the benefits of really enlisting our military, our veterans here in Chicago, and understanding the role is we need more soldiers on the front line, like literally. Who else would you go to, right, besides veterans? And so it really just came upon that with that idea, and we wanted to start again with the process of let's build some relationships with people. Let's understand what the needs are. Let's understand what the issues are, what the barriers are, and let's kind of go from there. And so it's really been just outstanding to see this thing kind of develop and it start to blossom from just having that conversation, really.
So, Sean, let's bring you into this conversation. What motivated you? You're a veteran. You decided that you wanted to do something to kind of give back to the community. What motivated you to get started with this?
So is what kind of motivated me to get started is I'm not a veteran.
Okay.
And is what motivated me is I had a veteran mentor me through the hardest challenge I've ever had in my life, which was being abused as a kid. And when that happened, I read a Navy SEALs book. His name is Tom Shea. This was about 2014, 2015. I actually messaged him on LinkedIn and said, "Hey, read your book. Want to talk to you further." I flew out and met him. He took the time to talk with me, and he had me face the person who abused me. And he had me track that person down, shake that person's hand, and forgive them. And to me, it wasn't about taking the power back, but it was of letting go of that experience and moving forward. And that actually took me out of PTSD, which I struggled with kind of unknowingly for a long time, since 7th and 8th grade, all the way up to, in my early to mid 20s. So once I actually got past that and went to post-traumatic growth, I saw what the veteran aspect could do in these communities. Because in these communities, they're seeing trauma all the time. And that has effects on children that people don't even understand. And you need to have mentors in there that basically help these kids through that and help them face it and flourish as leaders. So that's kind of what I saw, what my experiences was, and what I saw going on when I was being a developer, which is, what I do for a career. I'm like, hey, this is a great matchup here. We need to build community using veterans to build leaders in the community.
I love it really, Raza, because, my grandfather, my uncles, they were like Marines themselves, and I really salute the armed services here in the United States. I'm a patriot, so it's very important. So I think walking with the warriors, I like the way it sounds, and young men out there and women need warriors to walk with them by their sides until they get it right. That's what it's all about. Mentorship is about guiding somebody in the right direction. There's an old saying that if you have to look beyond your dinner table for a leader, you may find yourself lost to a degree. So that the leadership should come from within your home. But if it's not there, that's why we need organizations like Walking with the Warriors to step up, in the gap, stand in the gap, so to speak, and help these young guys. Because when we organize these healing circles, I must admit, what I do is we take young brothers out of the city. We take them to Elizabeth, Illinois. There's a ranch out there, and we get a chance to see, these people, the young guys, not these people, the young guys in their own element when it comes down to just being human. In other words, just being human. Being able to share some emotions, like the brother you were talking about, what you went through when you were growing up. And this is just like a moment for me. I had an abusive uncle when I was growing up. I never got sexually abused, nothing like that. I want to make that clear. But what happened is he used to make me eat salt sandwiches, man. And it takes all day to eat a salt sandwich. I was like 7 years old. He was kind of menacing. And I never really talk about that much. But it seemed like it took hours to eat the sandwich. Real talk. I make a little fun out of it now and then because I overcame that. And he was physically abusive, fight me, And then I tried to make sense out of what was happening back then. And I said, well, at least he taught me how to be kind of tough. And I tried to make sense out of it, So the reality is that we all go through some things, but men have to be able to get this stuff off their chest. Because a lot of times you don't have an avenue, somebody that can understand. Then you're worried about being judged if you talk about it. You're worried about those kind of things there. So I appreciate you talking about that. I'm glad somebody stepped up to support you through that process. That's very important.
Well, and another thing I want to ask, Sean, is again, like Tio was saying, people don't like to talk about this. This is trauma. They don't. Maybe it's not that they don't want to talk about it. They don't know how to talk about it. They don't know how to express themselves. Now you're in a situation where you have veterans, like we were talking about. Sometimes they suffer PTSD. You have members in the community who, face their own challenges sometimes. How do you break down that barrier? How do you build that bridge? How do you get them to just open up?
That's a hard question um, to drill down and give a simple answer for. I think being authentic. I think that is the number one thing that people appreciate: being honest, open, and authentic. And I think a lot of the veteran community is that way. And I think that's where that kind of breaks it down. When we started with the police department, it was just, hey, let's break bread together and watch football. You know what I mean? Let's not make it about all these other things that don't matter. What matters are the human beings that we interact with in our 3 to 6 foot circle. From day to day, how do you have that interaction with the person you're dealing with every single day, right? Like you're walking down the street, and I'm guilty of this. Someone gets upset with you. Do you get upset back, or do you sit there and say, hey, what's going on? I mean, it's not that you stop and talk with everyone, but think about that and think about that person as a human and not someone as just any kind of stereotype or any kind of these political check marks that you need to cross off.
Sergeant, I'm going to ask you about this too. You being in community policing, you've had these opportunities to engage with the community. How do you find that level of trust? How do you build that? And what kind of community organizations and efforts have you found to be successful? And what really drives that success?
Yeah, I think one of the most important features is the credibility of the messenger, right? The person who's delivering the services, or the person who's recruiting the young person, or whatever it may be, the credibility of that person. And so one of the things, so as we talk about with veterans, right, to speak about the resiliency to overcome trauma, right? What better prepared members of society are than our veterans, right? To understand and be able to have walked in those shoes of losing someone at a consistent basis, being involved in actual wars and those kind of things. That resiliency that you build up on our streets of Chicago, in some ways, it feels like a war, right? To be constantly losing people you love, right? Those things are similar. So what did our veterans use to kind of overcome that and be able to come back here and those resiliency skills? And so to talk to a young person and speak about that, that's something you can relate to. So the same thing goes when you talk about community organizations, right? Who are you using to deliver the message, right? And the ones that work best are when we tap into the assets in our communities, right? The organizations who use residents, to lead, and the members of the community itself. When things are foreign and it comes from outside, they don't stick. And so really in seeing the organizations that work best are the ones who really tie into the fabric of the community, instead of trying to tell the neighborhoods what to do, to find out what you need. And that comes through conversations. So people who do that, organizations that do that type of work, they're going to be successful, and we're seeing success in that same way.
Well, I had to ask you guys a question right here. How can the community and the police work together where we can kind of like rebuild the trust, and how can we establish some type of good rapport with the community and younger people in particular? Because I know there's a divide with the police and the community to a large degree. So I'm just trying to wonder, like the program Walking with the Warrior, I think this can be like a startup to a point where people can begin to trust and just overall relationship, because there's two different relationships you can have. Some people think the relationship is about telling on people. That's not what the police are trying to get people to do. So we want to just say that nobody's trying to get people to just go tell on people all over the universe. It's about establishing the fact that police are human beings just like everybody else. So that's the job they have, to be a police officer. How can we bridge that gap and make sure that everybody has respect for one another? What are some of your thoughts about that on a positive level?
Yeah. So one of those things really, it starts into building relationships and all those kind of things. And we talk about trust in so many ways. It starts really in the authenticity of what you're trying to do. It's the context, right? Are we building relationships for the purpose of, preventing crime? Are we building relationships for the purpose of getting more people in our program? Or are we truly out trying to serve our neighborhoods and our communities? So starting from one is the context of what you're approaching is the most important. Your heart, that authenticity, that's going to guide any kind of thing, especially with young people. They see right through all the BS, right? You cannot fake the funk with a young person, right? Exactly. They're going to see if you're not consistent with them, right? If you're spotty, you're unresponsive, you're aloof and distant, they're going to see that and they're going to pick up on that. Yeah, they feel that stuff quickly because so much with young people, right? They listen because, they're always told to sit back and wait your turn and don't speak, those kind of things. So they develop that ability to really pay attention and watch. So the way we move and the way we behave, the youth, they're going to see that. And so we really get in that context of what we're trying to do, and it's really to build a relationship. All those other things are side effects, right? The crime reduction, the improvements in communities, those are all the side effects of what happens when we start to build relationships with each other. And so really having the context be there.
Good stuff. And then Sean, mainly back to you. What really drives you? What is your main passion? What drives you to want to, establish this type of organization, Walking with the Warrior? What's your driving force?
I love this city,
Okay.
and I don't want to see the violence in this city. I mean that's just, to me, that's the bottom line. I love this, I love our country too. I want to be a service of others. I mean that's just the biggest thing is, for me, it's be grateful for every day I have, be a service to others, and do my best to honor my word to others and honor my word to myself. And to me, this is kind of being a service to the community that I'm in.
Good information there. So that's what it's all about. I kind of like where we're going with this because these conversations are needed here in Chicago. They're needed so much right now because of all the violence in Chicago.
We watch what's going on, and it's constantly documented. We're told about the violence. We're very rarely told about the solutions, the organizations that are out there that we can help benefit, that we can help fund, that we can help actually support. I mean, we talk about Tio, what was it? Safer Seas programs that kind of help fight recidivism. There are these
Foundation.
the Safer Foundations.
Right.
Absolutely, there are these organizations that are out there doing the work that again don't get the acknowledgement. They don't get the recognition. They don't get the attention that the problem gets. And this is an opportunity for us to showcase. The organizations that are bringing some solutions to that. And we're going to come back after this commercial break and talk more about with Sean and Jermaine. You can call us at 773-763-9278. Talk to you after this.
The minority groups in America are severely affected by COVID-19 due to healthcare and economic inequities. Chicago, now it's your time to make a difference in your community and join the fight against this global pandemic. Loretto Hospital, in partnership with Affinity Health, are seeking healthy volunteers to find a potential COVID-19 vaccine. Interested participants can call 877-L-TRIALS or visit chicagocovidvaccine.com to learn more.
Megan Financial is an independent retirement and financial services firm dedicated to the working men and women of organized labor. Megan provides straightforward, custom-fit financial advice and specializes in defined benefit and defined contribution pension plans, as well as participant and retiree health and welfare benefits. Megan Financial has the knowledge and experience to navigate the union member through all phases of life. Call 708-444-1090.
Securities and advisory services offered through Cetera Advisors LLC, member FINRA, SIPC, a broker-dealer and registered investment advisor. Cetera is under separate ownership from any other named entity. Office location at 5321 South 94th Avenue, Orland Park, Illinois, 60462.
33 Realty is a fully integrated real estate services firm specializing in investment brokerage, property management, leasing, distressed real estate services, and construction services via its sister company, Cube Construction, for a variety of asset classes across the multifamily and commercial real estate sectors. 33 Realty provides full-service solutions, complex real estate assignments with industry-leading staff invested in the process. For more information, please visit 33realty.com. 33 Realty, your foundation for real estate success.
Ever wonder about the story behind the story? Who are the people you watch delivering the news, filming the scenes, and putting pen to paper to tell the story you read in your morning paper? Tune in to Media Essential Workers on Facebook and YouTube to find out. With constant changes in the Chicago media landscape, one reliable source keeps track of the people bringing you the stories. Media Essential Workers, the premier live stream telling the story of the storytellers. Sunday nights at 7. Like, subscribe, and follow Media Essential Workers to find out about special shows during the week. Hosted by Raza Siddiqui, Media Essential Workers gets the story of the storytellers.
We're back back on Against the Grain with Raza Siddiqui, Mr. Tio, Ceasefire Hardiman. It's a mouthful. It always gets me tripped up.
Yes, indeed.
One of the things I do want to talk about, we got a couple callers on the line, but one of the points I want to get across is that we're all connected by the streets, right? You look outside your door, you look outside your house, you're connected by a street. You're not separate from the violence out there. You're connected. You're connected to these communities, to these people. Oftentimes we hear that, I see something. I know I could do something, but I don't know what it is I can do. Get on that street, go to where you can be useful, where you can be a benefit. There are organizations that can help. And I want to talk with you, Sean, about what it is that got you off the couch and made you decide, I'm going to drive down the street, go to where I can be of use, where I can be helpful to the community and do something to help the community. How do you go from seeing a street to using that street to being a pillar in that community?
Well,
Good question.
honestly, I was watching the 2016 election and I just kind of threw my hands up and I'm like, I can't stand this stuff. And especially when they were talking about the violence in Chicago, and I just kind of thought, this isn't going to be fixed by Washington. This is going to be fixed by everyone in Chicago, North Side, South Side, West Side, coming together and creating the community that, in my mind, that I wanted to see. So that's kind of what drove this. I mean, I've failed, I've misstepped in ways trying to get to this, but it's to me, it's the relentless pursuit of trying to make it happen.
It's very interesting because you're always going to have your successes, you're going to have your failures, and it's so easy to see that failure and be like, you know what, why even try? But here's the thing, you don't succeed unless you try. There's a lot of people who want to get involved. There's a lot of people on the bench. I'm going to ask you this, Sergeant. How do you get the people who are on the bench who see what's going on and want to take action? I understand that might be kind of something you need to motivate people to do too, right? Help empower them to empower the change.
Yeah, a lot of it goes into one of the things that really excites me about working with Sean is that he didn't come in thinking he knew all the answers. He didn't show up and say, hey, I'm going to fly in here and come and fix this neighborhood, right? And so that becomes a very, very important thing, that to help and get involved requires you to get out there and actually hear some stories, talk to people, and understand what the needs are. Because here's something that people who are on the outside of a community may not understand, is that the answers are already there. The trouble is that they're not amplified or they're not resourced properly. Right. So how do you bring in those things you have, especially when it comes to your voice or your influence, as from the corporate sector, the business, or whatever space that you succeed in, you provide a lot of muscle to that voice. Right. So how do you go in and amplify those voices in the communities? And that's one of those things that's really missing as we develop a program, how Sean talked about, from Washington or even from the city. Right. If it's not grounded into what the people want and what those voices are, we're misstepping in that way. And so to get involved, it's not a thing to be scared of, right? It's not going to be all on you. There's a lot of people there that are on the ground that's doing the work. Just figure out, how do you support that? How do you play that behind the scenes role? How do you step up when you need to, right? Those type of things aren't heavy lifts. It's really just to care enough to get out there and get involved.
Okay, good stuff. So let's bring Brother Clyde on out of Lake County. Then we get Brother Raymond in a few minutes. Brother Clyde, thanks for calling in. How you doing today?
Doing all right, Tio. How's everything?
Doing it pretty good. I want you to have a conversation with our guest today. They have an organization called Walking with the Warrior, and I know in Lake County you have a lot of veterans up there doing some good work in Lake County as well. And even in Zion, you've had a couple of homicides and a few shootings, so they're talking about how we can all kind of like organize together to continue to help reduce gun violence. So what are your comments, Brother Clyde?
Well, in Zion, Illinois this week, we had two murders, a shootout where both gentlemen supposed to kill each other. And what's going to happen is we need resources in the community. I'm not for defunding the police. I am for reallocating the funds to put back more programs. You remember in the days when we had CETA programs and out-school programs where these children can be the ones. If you notice, all these shooters is young people, 14, 15 years old.
Yes.
These are kids. These kids need to be out on the fields playing, running, jumping, not stealing cars, carjacking for cars, not shooting around robberies and stuff like that. Our communities have lacked all this. I think the politicians is coming in and selling out to communities because they're walking away with the money and no funds are being allocated into the communities to stop these services.
Clyde, I want to actually give Sergeant Harris an opportunity to talk about the whole motivation with defund the police and talk about the reallocation, because you're on the front line. You've heard this argument. Tell us your perspective.
Yeah, the trouble with the concept of defund police is that the word itself takes away from what people are really looking for. It becomes one of those political statements that instantly you say it, you got a side, you're either in or you're out. And in the middle of it is our communities that are suffering. So if we really reframe it like the caller said, and talking about using money effectively to serve our communities, that's something we're going to get behind. Even as police, I can speak for that, to say that if there's a way to take the load off of officers for doing things that go beyond the scope of our general job duties, we are for that in overwhelmingly ways, right? So especially when you talk about mental health, like those type of things, mental illness is not a crime. So as police, why are we going to those type of situations? If we're able to identify professionals, people that have studied this and are pros and doctors to handle these type of instances, we will step away. Instead of, in my position as a police officer, I've been trained, 40 hours here, another 40 hours there, refreshers here, all related to this stuff to deal with mental illness. But again, I'm a criminal justice major, right? I still don't have the expertise in order to do this job effectively. So what we really need to do is to get out the politics and stop playing the games of going back and forth with the wording, and really get to some serious policy changes to start getting the professionals in places where they need to be.
Okay. So what? Yeah, go ahead. You want to say something?
Oh yeah, I do. I mean, I interact with a lot of the 15th district, a lot of the different police officers on the west side, and I have not met one of them that is not trying to help that community, trying to serve that community, and looking for more ways to serve that community. I mean, it is, to me, it's incredible what I see. And speaking, just kind of echoing what Jermaine Sergeant Harris says.
Well, with me, I always play the devil's advocate, Brother Clyde. See, now I plan to just speak my mind just a little bit because we're going against the grain. See, I don't think the police have ever been trained to stop killings on the front end. I believe the police have been trained to get involved once the crime has been committed and try to do the investigation. They come after the crime has been committed. And that's why the homicide clearance rate is only 14%. Now, I'm not blaming the police for that. I want to make that clear. I'm not blaming the police because it's all about training. It's hard to get in on the inside and stop it before it happens. But at the same time, the police do get paid to try to resolve and bring bring some kind of conclusion to a homicide that has been committed. That's their job. So a 14% homicide clearance rate is kind of tough right now. But I understand all the politics of the concrete jungle. Nobody's talking. I know how it goes. So I'm not really criticizing, but at the same time, we need to bring attention to it. More work needs to be done on the front end. See, if you stop it on the front end, nobody goes to jail, nobody goes to the cemetery. Bottom line, that's what we have to do. And that's why Walking with the Warrior program is so important. So, Clyde, you got any closing comments? Because we got a couple more calls waiting for us. Anything else you got to say there,
Right.
Clyde?
I just want to say that Black Death has become big money right now. Who's getting paid? Everybody's got their hand in a cookie jar, but nobody's talking about stopping Black and brown death out here. It's not only with, I'm talking about the community crime with Blacks killing Blacks and the police killing. Nobody is trying to stop it because it's big money right now. And that's what we need to do. That's the politic part of it. To speak on the brother that said defunding the police, I'm not with defunding, I'm with reallocation. Now, that doesn't mean that the police don't get no money, because we need police. And if I need to call the police, I'm going to call. I'm down 911. I just want the right one to come. Training, I agree with you, Tio. It's very, very important that these police officers get some kind of training. Even the old ones need to be trained on the new. I mean, there's a new generation out here. So a lot of police officers been there 20, 30 years. They don't know how to deal with this new generation. You know what I'm saying? So the training is very important. So, and that's going to take funding to get these trainings. So that's why I'm not saying defund the police. I'm saying reallocate. Not all the funds should be going fairly to the police departments, that it needs to be coming into the communities. Right. Mental health, another thing, is a big problem all across the country. You know what I'm saying? We need to get people trained, or some of these officers know how to deal with mental health patients.
That's deep.
I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Brother Clyde.
Thank you for calling in. We got a couple more calls coming in, too. We got Raymond, who wants to talk about gun violence. Raymond, you're on with Tio Hardiman, Raza Siddiqui.
Brother Raymond.
Hey, how you doing?
Yeah, just wanted to make sure that you was in the mix here, Brother Raymond, because I know your organization, Brothers Standing Together, you've been doing a lot of good work in the Cabrini Green area. And it's very important. But before you make a comment, Raymond, I also want you I would like for you to hit on that mental health, people that need mental health support as well, as I know you work with a lot of people in the community in that area also, brother.
Well, that's the main thing I was talking about, was the mental health. See, people don't understand that although we didn't go to the wars, we have PTSD as well. If you look at all the shootings, all the homicides we have witnessed in our communities over the years, living in a poverty-stricken community, that's what we suffer with. And people have mental challenges. People are born with certain defects. People are incorporated, like people become addicted. That's a mental health. You know, people, they thinking patterns be messed up. There's a lot going on there, and people don't want to address that. They want to say, well, the young man, he just violent. No, he's not violent. Maybe he was sexually abused. Maybe he was beaten. You know what I'm saying? You don't know what the circumstances going on with these young men and young women out here because we haven't, one, built a relationship with them. So we don't know what's going on with them. And two, like the brother said, we need to reallocate those funds. Stop putting them in the politicians' hands and put them in the community hands, and then you'll see the decrease. And like you said, Tio, Black Death is a hustle. It is a hustle. They hustling off the black and brown people, period.
Yes, sir.
And not only that, then that increases the violence. If I'm living in a poverty-stricken neighborhood and I see people coming from Indiana and Missouri, and they come to work in my community every day, building up houses and things of that nature and condos, and I can't get a job in there, now I'm discouraged. Now you just increase my chance of me committing a crime because I feel offended. Everybody can't be laborers, but if some kind of form of job can be created and should be allocated to the community when these big corporations coming in their neighborhoods. And that's not being done. The only person who's getting the money is the aldermen and the CDC. You know, so that's what we have to understand. And then you talk about the violence going to erupt because nobody has sat down since the real ceasefire. Let me be clear on that. The real ceasefire team was established and had a rapport with these brothers and sisters out on the street. So until you get that back acclimated into the city of Chicago, you're not going to stop the violence. Just today on 69th and Cornell, there's a drive-by shooting. Last night, there was shootings on Cleveland, downtown. So you're talking about the violence is erupting all over the city, not just on the west and south side, but now you got it on the Gold Coast, you have it on the north side. So the violence is spreading and it's spreading fast because people don't understand about how these things is going on and what's going on in and outside these communities. And you know, I'm not with defunding the police, but don't send me the police who don't understand. Because you and I know we work for years around officers who just really don't understand our plight. They don't understand the frustration. What are you mad for? What you mean what I'm mad for? Just like they kicked the wrong lady house, remember? And she was in her naked.
Yes, indeed.
And
we just talked about that earlier.
House, but they didn't think about no wrong house. And you look at it, I ain't see a brother or sister in there until the woman came in there and she put the blanket on the lady. Dude threw the jacket on her.
Okay, got you, Brother Raymond.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, that's important.
So that's what we're talking about, brother. And that's some of the things we have to understand how that's confusion. Now, this is a black sister being treated like an animal. And I'm supposed to respect you. I can't respect you for that. And then y'all talk about nobody knew what was happening. So we going all the way back to Laquan McDonald. So nobody knew what happened with that either. Huh? So everybody's playing dumb, but now you want the violence to stop. Come on, man, knock it off.
So just stay on the line a minute, Brother Raymond, because Brother Sean would like to talk about a little bit, address what you said for a minute there, Brother Raymond.
Oh, no, definitely about the mental health. Like when you're looking at something, you know, Brother Raymond, I faced a lot of those same issues where when I was younger and I was still going through PTSD, if I got triggered, I was violent, and I didn't know why, I didn't know where it was going, but if that situation faced me, and especially that's what kind of brought me into wanting to help in these areas and seeing this happen, because I've seen it happen firsthand. And, you know, I won't touch on the the police thing too much, but I mean that's just a very hard situation all across the board. And we all see the problem here with struggling through the PTSD. How do we find these solutions? To me, and I think what Jermaine was saying about the mental health, and I really think it's other programs in the communities that can help with that as well.
I know, good stuff. Yeah.
You know what? We got to take a commercial break. After we come back, I do want to talk a little bit more about the concept of reinvestment into the community. When you actually, Sean, through your program, Walking with a Warrior, you're developing something and you're reinvesting not only physical resources into that community, business opportunities, economic activities, and I think it's very important to touch upon the positives that your program is going to bring as we go forward right after this commercial break.
Are you interested in being one of the first participants in a COVID-19 vaccine clinical trial in Chicago? Affinity Health is currently seeking healthy volunteers who may be eligible for a COVID-19 investigational vaccine study. This will take place at the Loretto Hospital in Chicago, Illinois. We are looking for people who work as teachers, factory workers, retail workers, or anyone exposed to many people during their workday. Visit chicagocovidvaccine.com or call 877-L-TRIALS to learn more. That's 877-587-4257. Founded by award-winning acoustical architect Timothy Pickett in 1999, Encompass AV is one of the most respected audiovisual and acoustical design firms in Chicago. Encompass AV and its staff of 20 highly trained field engineers provide custom-designed AV, low-voltage, network, and security systems. Since inception, Encompass AV has worked closely with all levels of business, from single proprietors to enterprise and Fortune 500 multinationals. You can find Encompass at encompassav.com. Reach out today for a free estimate. Ever wonder about the story behind the story? Who are the people you watch delivering the news, filming the scenes, and putting pen to paper to tell the story you read in your morning paper? Tune in to Media Essential Workers on Facebook and YouTube to find out. With constant changes in the Chicago media landscape, one reliable source keeps track of the people bringing you the stories. Media Essential Workers, the premier live stream telling the story of the storytellers. Sunday nights at 7. Like, subscribe, and follow Media Essential Workers to find out about special shows during the week. Hosted by Raza Siddiqui, Media Essential Workers gets the story of the storytellers.
Against the Grain, you're on with Raza Siddiqui and Tio Hardiman. We're joined today by Sean Easton from Walking with the Warriors and Sergeant Jermaine Harris from the Chicago Police Department. We just left off where we're talking about Walking with the Warriors reinvestment back into the community. It'd be too easy to ask Sean about it. I want to ask Sergeant Harris about it from a police perspective. What have you seen that this organization's doing to give back into that community, to break down these barriers, and to show that there's going to be mutual trust because there's mutual investment. There's an investment here.
Oh, absolutely. I'm going to start with how do you define invest, right? What does that actually mean, right? And in a lot of cases, it's beyond just putting some money or some dollars into it, right? It's also becoming an advocate, right? So you have to invest in advocacy. That means that you got to get some passion about what you're doing. And so we're going into an opportunity to create something new from a different level of just creating a program, right? It's actually having that sense of belonging and being a part of it, right? So when the investment piece comes in that way, it changes the scale upon how we look at things. So we'll talk a little bit about what Walking with a Warrior does when it comes to that investing piece. So we're not only looking to invest in infrastructure, right? To build a new building, right? It's investing in the people as well, right? It's investing in these job opportunities for young people. It's investing in mental health. It's investing in community empowerment. It's investing in safe spaces. Like in so many different ways, we're looking at all of these different opportunities. It's really doing that in a holistic kind of fashion where we're trying to deal with not only the young person themselves, but the environment around them as well.
Yeah, privately as a developer, we're doing stuff there, for profit. So we're, capitalists at heart, but we all, at me for the foundation of Walking with the Warrior, that's completely nonprofit, and that's where it's building community. And I think that's one reason that where the communities that I'm actually working for as my career investing in, I want to also have that community impact, and this is how I feel we can do it. And also, I mean, my biggest thing is a lot of people who are helping with me are just investing their time, and that's the biggest thing. Is I have people coming from Wicker Park, Wrigleyville, Gold Coast, into these neighborhoods with me and investing their time. And, we did the tailgates with the police department. That was a huge hit. And they were so much fun. We were grilling out, watching the Bears game. And I think, what were we, 5-1 when we stopped those tailgates because of weather? Bears were actually, they're winning again, but Bears were winning
because of us. Yeah, we might have cost the playoffs because we stopped tailgating.
But and it was just, and the amazing thing about it was I had so many friends come back to me and say, "Wow, Sean, I never realized what that's like to come and invest in that community in that way." And it was awesome on every single end.
Good information. Let's take Brother Roman on. He wants to talk about gun control. And Mr. Roman. Yeah, Roman.
Hello? Roman, you're on with Tio Hardiman.
Raza
Siddiqui.
Yep, you're on
sure
the
can.
We appreciate you calling in, Roman.
Yeah, well, let me first explain what's really going on. This is culturalism warfare that we got going on in the streets of Chicago. I've been listening to the callers and stuff like that. We have these programs. The problem is that we have the aldermen and the city officials keep cutting the programs. We're not talking about the cats that try to get the trust of the community, and once they got the trust of the community, they cut it. Remember, Gary McCarthy cut that program. And we sit there blindsided, and we didn't fight for it to come back. These programs were good for our community, and then we let these public officials take it away, and now that's part of the culturalism warfare that's going on in the street. We're not talking about, if you want to know how we get the guns, then we got to talk about the freight train. We got to talk about the internet. We got to talk about all and address them. And we got to also talk about the music scene. The drill music is like the assassination music. And they're naming names and naming gang members. And we're not just sitting there just saying, turning a blind eye to what's going on the street. But we got people that's in these positions pretending like they know, but they don't know.
Okay.
So when people sit there and say, well, we need to reinvest in the community, there's money pouring into Austin, Inglewood, and stuff like that, but it goes into the wrong hands. Let's address that.
I think that's something we could dedicate a whole show to. I think one of the things we need to talk about, I know Sean wants to respond. Sean,
Well, no, I mean, that's exactly why, going back to my comment about the 2016 election, that's why I was kind of sitting there. I'm like, it's not going to be Washington. It's not going to be our government officials. Now, should we work hand in hand? Yes, we should. But should we, as people, as a grassroots of the city of Chicago, how do we come together to fix this ourselves? How do we build business ourselves that is working together? How do we build programs that are funded, not necessarily, hopefully from the government as well, but not necessarily relying on that? How do you build it in a business model that also helps as well? Like, getting people from different communities engaging with either, donations or coming in and giving their own time to help raise money. To me, it's got to be a grassroots thing where it's not a politician is in control, but where we as the community are in control. The people who are making the decisions are in control. So that's just my thought, and that's why I wanted to get into it.
Sounds good. So this is what we have. We have a caller calling in from Naperville who wants to work with the Walking with the Warriors organization. So who's that? We got Norbert. Norbert on the line. Did I pronounce your name right?
Yeah, that's fine. That's great. I really admire you guys and respect you tremendously. And I want to be able to help out. Have a website or a phone number or something that I could get in touch?
Yeah, so if you just go on Facebook, we're on Facebook right now. I'm self-funding a lot of this, so I'm actually currently preparing a website. We are partnering with the Primo Center, so if you did reach out to the Primo Center, they do have a website, and you can get in touch with me through them. And then my name's Sean Easton. So just if you look me up on Facebook, I mean, this is a grassroots movement. I'm self-funding a lot of this, and we're a startup. We're having a lot of success, so would love any help you can bring. So please reach out.
Okay, that's great. Yeah, I've been to New York City and other cities across the country, and I've seen the violence decrease. Like I downtown Brooklyn has become with an Apple store and totally becoming gentrified. But it's black people who are being gentrified. and with the jobs and the development that's happening in places like Brooklyn and Harlem, the crime has dropped precipitously. And that's what we need. We need jobs and we need development. And that's why I might disagree with people who are so hard against gentrification that they're stopping progress. That we need better jobs, and we need, like, Chicago has thousands of tech jobs, and yet it's mostly old white guys like me who are in those tech jobs. We need young people in those tech jobs. And like I walked from the Apple Store in downtown Brooklyn to where Ebbets Field stood, and I don't remember seeing many other white people but me, and I felt totally safe. I walked into a McDonald's near where Ebbets Field stood. I took pictures of the Jackie Robinson Elementary School, the Ebbets Field Middle School, and I had a great time talking to people on the streets. And that's what I would hope that we can happen in Chicago. Is that I could go to any neighborhood, spend money, and help to get people into good jobs.
I love it. I love it, Norbert. That's a real good call, and I do believe that, in the words of Rodney King, can we all just get along? That's the way I look at it. I love all human beings. Let's just work together and try to build a better community. So that's really good. We appreciate your call, Norbert.
You guys have a happy holidays.
Thanks, Norbert.
It's time is upon us here. We know we got another call. We'll take one last call,
Sure.
then we just let you guys have a conversation on
we want to
everything.
let them have a conversation and talk about if you like hearing them. There's going to be more opportunities
Yes,
to get the
indeed.
voice out for working with the warrior, walking with the warrior, and we're going to talk about that right after this caller.
Yeah, line number one. Yeah, caller, you're on the air with Tio Hardiman and Raza Siddiqui. You're on the air.
Hello, yeah, good evening. This is KG. We need to teach these kids how to fish than getting a fish. We teach them how to become doing marketing so they can be associate like Walmart, or they can, something knowledge that can let them go and make a lot of money out there. And it's very simple. Internet made everything very simple. We need to get these kids and teach them a skill to go brand somebody product and make their own money. It's all about food.
We need to empower them and give them the opportunity to get out there and do whatever they want to do, because everyone has the opportunity, or should be given that opportunity, to go out there and achieve their dreams and to get that education. I think Sean and Sergeant Harris, I think that's exactly what you guys are trying to do, is empower these people to be like, hey, nothing that you see is beyond what you can accomplish. And there are institutions and there are forces that are out there that are going to help propel you, whether it's, like we were saying, infrastructure in the investment in the community, or just the opportunities that are out there. But more than that, just the team of support and the mentors and the people you have behind you, whether it is with organizations like your own, or even the police force that's out there trying to build these relationships to, again, propel people. I mean, Sergeant Harris, you guys are a police force, but you guys are also out there empowering, mentoring, having a connection, having a relationship with these people. That's something we don't talk about a lot with the police force. Tell us about that.
Yeah. So really looking at life, right? Life happens all at once. What I mean by that is there's things that are going on in a person's life simultaneously, right? There could be issues with employment. There could be issues with mental health. There's issues with education, family issues, trauma. Like, all of these things are happening all at once. So if you're going to combat that, you have to address it all at once, right? And that means that as many coordinated efforts that we can get involved simultaneously to counteract those negative influences, that's what it's going to take, really, in actuality. And that's what it gets into the point. As police, we must collaborate. We must work with other leaders. We must work with other sectors, other agencies, to really address these problems. Because if I think that I'm just going to arrest enough people, we're going to have a serious enough gun laws, we're going to remove enough weapons from the street, that magically we're going to remove the need to eat, we're going to remove the need to be employed. That's not going to happen. So it really comes into that point of everyone coordinating and operating in this systemic fashion, in which the efforts and the work that we do are really all about supporting all facets of life.
And that's what I find so beautiful about this partnership, is that you have identified an organization that's out there that's looking to build this. Sean, tell us again, like, some of the ways in which you are committed to bringing up people who join forces with you.
I mean, it's about building leaders, whether that's building leaders of the kids that we're going to help, or it's building community leaders that are coming in to help us do that. I mean, that's just, to me, it's, he was saying about, you need to find a skill, you need to have a job, you need to live a purpose-filled life. I mean, you can get a check, but if you don't have that purpose, what is your purpose that's driving you each day, that wakes up and you're excited to go do what you do? And, sometimes it's hard to get to that point. Sometimes you got to grind out a job you don't like to get to that purpose. And that's what we want to create, that atmosphere where people can go and get after a purpose-filled life, have those mentorships in. I mean, that's the atmosphere we want to create.
And to add on that, one of the most important things, all of these programs, all of this advice means nothing if people don't listen to you. If you don't have the relationship with this young person to offer this advice so that they listen, all this is just talking. It's a waste of time. So start with that first step. Build a relationship. Go out, talk to somebody, understand, see the needs, understand the issue, what the concerns are, and start from there. And the answers will come to you.
And if you're scared, just take one step, then another, and another, and another. Just step into fear and keep moving forward. Because if it's just words without movement, you're not going to go anywhere. I mean, I experienced that as a mid-20-something, where I was just so scared that I wasn't moving in any direction that was worthwhile.
Understood.
And how do you take that? You take one step after another, after another, after another, and baby steps.
And again, we appreciate Sean Easton so much, Walking with the Warrior, and Sergeant Harris for coming on and sharing a little about what they're doing. This is going to be kind of an ongoing thing where you kind of update us what's happening in the community, because we love bringing these positive stories. Tio Hardiman, Raza Siddiqui, Against the Grain, we're always here to bring the stories of the people who are out there making a difference, and no two better examples than these guys right here. We look forward to continuing to bring their stories to you, as well as other stories out there as we continue to tell the stories of the city of Chicago. Once again, that's Raza Siddiqui, Tio Mr. Ceasefire Hardiman, Against the Grain. Thank you for joining us.